Hey everyone, Emmanuel here with another Systema training tip. So this week I wanted to talk to you about the concept of stretching, and I don't mean it as stretching, physical stretching or just physical stretching, but learning how to stretch yourself or stretch your partner out. So usually you'll see this in some arts more than others, where the more you stretch the person out, the more unstable they are, the harder it is to deliver an effective punch or kick if you're kind of stretched out. Easier just to restrain somebody if they're stretched out. So you often hear this idea of stretching a person out. So I taught a class this week specifically with that theme that was quite successful and had very positive outcomes. So I may share it with everybody. So first, you have to understand the concepts of stretching. So you can do like static stretching. It's fine if you like it. The research on that is varied. It's not definitive for sure whether it enhances athletic performance. It definitely is a small indicator, but flexibility through like more range of motion is better. So dynamic flexibility, right? So I'll show you kind of how I would build up the concept. So what I'll do is it'll be a two-part video. This will be, the first one is how I work on myself with this topic. And then the second part will be how to kind of incorporate that when training. So stretching out a partner or working with that idea of stretching somebody out. So we'll first start it on a personal level, and then the second video I make will be with one of the students here, and I'll show you that concept as it plays out a little bit more in the martial art. But back to the things at hand. In order for you to understand how to stretch somebody out, you need yourself to feel and know how to stretch yourself out. And this is good because then let's say you're working against somebody, you'll also feel how they're stretching you out, because you need to feel this, not see it. It's a feeling first, right? So I'll show you the way I do it. So you do it a variety of ways, but let's say I'm lying on my stomach, right? Let's see if I get in the camera here. So I'm a big fan of opposite. So if I'm reaching up the mat, if you can see, if I'm reaching up the mat with my hand, with my right hand, I'm reaching down the mat with my left foot. So it's like I'm stretching from opposite ends, right? So I reach up with my hand and I reach down with my foot, my left foot, in this case on my right arm. And then I would switch it to the left arm and the right foot. And it would just reach on both ends as far as I could. Now, the big thing here, I always say, first you stretch from the fingers and the toes, then the wrist, the ankle, elbows, knees, shoulders, hips, and then into the ribs and into the spinal area. Okay, so what I mean is there comes a point where you just can't reach anymore with your fingers, and then you change your focus in your mind to focus on the wrist, and then you change your focus and you focus on the elbow. And so every time you're stretching out for longer, so you want to stretch out for like a minute, 2 minutes, like just constantly reach up and reach down with your foot. And you're in your mind, you're going joint by joint to try open them, because all the joints can open a little bit, some more than others. So you're really like reaching stretch, right? Now you can add twists and all this other funky stuff, whatever you enjoy, but the concept is the same. You're reaching on both ends, and you're kind of getting a whole body idea of what it's like when you're being stretched out. So you can do it on your stomach. You can then roll over and do it on your back like that. Same idea. You're reaching up with your hand, reaching down with the opposite foot, and again you're holding this position. You can again do some twisting stuff with the ankles or wrist, but not necessary. And you're just feeling how, for me, the real good stuff happens more in like the ribs and really into like the spine area. And you're not just stretching out muscles, but you're stretching out tendons and ligaments, and well, maybe not ligaments, but tendons and all those things. You're stretching out the fascia, like you're really getting into many layers of what makes up the human body. So I'm a big fan of these over static stretching. Static stretching is okay, but this kind of stretching is for range of motion is really good. Now, I would start it like this, and then I would incorporate the stretching with movement. So if I'm on the ground, and let's say I'm on my stomach, on my back, I would reach up and I would start to kind of, almost like I'm reaching for something on the opposite side, and the reach starts to turn me over. And the same on the other way. I would reach, and it would turn me over. The same I would do with my legs. So I would lift my leg and I would reach, reach, and all the movement, like first my foot goes, then my knee. When that can't go, my hip, and then my back, so and so. So you're really looking to stretch and move yourself first by stretching. So you're not moving just because you said you want to move, but you're reaching for something, like you want to grab a ball or grab a converter or something that you're trying to touch. So you're always reaching, and the movement generates from reaching. And this has endless possibilities, to be honest with you. You can start to move in any which way, but it is an outward expression. You're not letting the muscles contract, like come closed. You're always going out, stretching and moving, okay? Again, endless possibilities here with this. So the concept is to stretch yourself and understand what it feels like to be stretched out. And so that way tomorrow when you're wrestling with somebody and you start to grab them, you start to feel how, oh my God, I'm stretched out. So you know it as a feeling, not just as an idea, okay? So again, there's so many little variations, but I'm just trying to show you some simple stuff to work with. So that's one. The other one then you start to say is, okay, so I understand stretching just lying down, then I understand stretching and moving, so stretching myself through movement. Then you also need to know stretching through your exercises. So here's a few ways you can do it. So I get into like a push-up, I come up in my push-up, and then I start to kind of reach. And I get back here. So I pick a spot on the mat, I reach it and I come back. And then I pick another spot on the mat a little further and then I come back. And until I find the point where it's the furthest and I've got to come down. So you notice how I didn't slam myself into the ground. It's like I'm trying to reach to the furthest point I can, and if I can't come back, I bring myself down. But I'm always trying to come back. And what I like about this is that you actually feel how vulnerable you are when you're reaching. You can feel that you're very unstable when you reach, and hence why a lot of knees and back and shoulders and all these things, bad things happen when you're reaching, okay? So it's good to feel and very important to know that outer point. Now I did it this way. You can do it countless ways. It can be out this way, out that way, it can be back here. And again, when I reach my furthest point, I have to come down. So you can do that in a push-up. You can do it also with your legs. So you can be like this and then reaching with your legs and coming back. Reach with your legs. And it can go anyway. It can be this way, it can be that way. And you're trying to find the furthest point before you gotta come down. Great way of finding that marriage between strength and flexibility. So I have to hold this push up, but I'm also reaching and stretching. So it's a lot actually going on. Other way you can do it is through kind of like a seated position, right? So my feet are up, my arms are up, and I'm trying to like touch the mat in various positions. I'm trying to get some angles here for us, you can see. So if I'm reaching without falling and coming back, reaching, coming back. Same with my legs, okay? So I'm always up in a V position. And then my arms and legs are going out, touching different parts of the mat. You can almost think of a clock if you like, far out as you can before you fall. Again, you need to be strong in the core or in the stomach area, but you need to reach and stretch. Another way you can do it is with squats. So let's see if I'll just leave it here with my legs. So I start kind of in a simple position and I make a step. And every time I take a step, I go a little bit further, until the point I can't go any further. And you have many different angles. I can go this way, I can go back, right? I can just constantly, so I've got to have especially the one leg strong, and the other one has to reach and come back. And see like the furthest point that you can step, right? And do your squat. Of somehow, right? Or you do it with a squat as well too. It's neither here nor there. You just pick an exercise, then you're reaching with it, and see how even through the exercise you feel this is when I'm reaching. This is when I'm doing something that's working with the stability, and also the structure doesn't feel as strong, right? There comes a point where you feel when you're reaching, you're actually quite weak. So It's just some different ways to think about stretching with exercises, like different exercises, right? The basic ones anyway, this the core ones we have. There's with walking now. So I'm just gonna explain the walking, but again, as you're walking, make bigger and bigger and bigger steps, wider till eventually you're at the widest stretch you can, which will look like the splits, and then you fall, and then you repeat that. It could be wide steps, so progressively the feet get as wide as they can till you're almost in the splits this way, and then you gotta fall. And you can do the exact same thing with running or a light jog. You make bigger and bigger steps until eventually you need to fall. And you can feel then for sure how unstable the legs are as you're doing this, okay? And then lastly, I would do it with breathing. So I would try to stretch my breathing. So when I say if I stretch the breathing, I would take progressively more and more air and stretch out my inhale. And then I would stretch out my exhale. When I say do this, 5 minutes would be a minimum, maybe more. You might even want to incorporate your entire workout. But you're stretching your breathing, or you're stretching your lungs. You're filling them up. And then just breathe out. Like, just do one at a time. Don't do them both. It's too difficult to do both if you're really pushing it, right? So I would work on just the inhale, and then just do whatever on the exhale, and then just on the exhale, and do whatever I want on the inhale. And this way you start to really, really stretch your breathing too, so you understand what happens when your breathing is being stretched or when your breathing is being taxed, because you can definitely feel the results of that, right? So you stretch through lying down, you stretch through movement, you stretch with your exercise, you stretch with walking and running, you stretch with your breathing. All these concepts are kind of the basics of what I'm going to show. So this was incorporated in the warm-up I taught in the class. So what I'll show you in the next video will be how I would utilize it in a martial art, say a martial arty application. So punches, kicks, grabs, how to stretch the partner coming, or the would-be attacker or assailant coming at you, how to stretch them out so that you can make them unstable and then with much more ease deal with them, whether it's put them down or control them somehow. So the philosophy is this: once you know how to escape from something, like move out of the line of a punch, a kick, or escape from a headlock or a grab of some sort, you should naturally progress to understanding how to work with these things, not run away from them or avoid them, but how to actually work with them. And when you learn how to work with them, there's a different type of comfort comes to you, that you realize that it's possible in the middle of stuff to survive this, if you understand how to destabilize somebody. When you destabilize them, or you make them stretch, or you put them off balance, or you do all this stuff, they're not as good as they would be, right? That's just the straightaway answer. You can see it in athletics, all kinds of athletics. If the athlete is not as comfortable, you see the performance right away is not as good, right? You can see it on all levels, right? If you're somehow uncomfortable, and stretching somebody else makes them uncomfortable, just try it when you're driving. Put your seat too far back and look how uncomfortable. Put it too far forward and see how uncomfortable it is, right? Anything that you do that is not exactly the distance that you like isn't comfortable, and your chance of you enjoying it or being successful with what you're doing is not good. So stretching out a person is a very simple way as to finding an easier way of dealing with them or putting them down. Hope you like this Systema training tip, and hopefully it helps you incorporate some of these aspects when you're training. I will start making part 2 in a couple of days, and hopefully post that so you guys have the 2 videos to compare. Take care. Good luck training.